Okay, Tracy.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, that we can gather tonight. And I'd like to acknowledge that I'm on the Worimi people's land, who for tens of thousands of years gave respect to the Creator for making them and all of the land and water and plant life and animal life, and receive the teaching and practice the teaching of being good stewards, of taking care of the land and all that was a part of it. And it's amazing to me always that they have been able to keep that teaching and practice going for the thousands of years. And they sang and did ceremony to keep the land healthy and strong, to keep their people healthy and strong. And they were healthy and strong, until 230 years ago. They were healthy and strong because of that. But they are still strong, and they're still teaching, trying to teach us how to live in respect to the land and respect to each other. And they're still extending graciousness to us and wishing to teach us more of how we can live. And I'm grateful for those who have really encouraged me and us to really see ourselves in the land now, that we are part of it, that they're not trying to send us away, but they want us to come into deeper relationship with them and with the land that we are interacting with all the time. So I'm very grateful for that. And thank you that we can pause and show our respect to the elders and to all the teachers and healers who have been in the past and in the present, and who are learning now, making the effort to become an elder. Thank you.
Create in me a pure heart, oh my God, oh my God, and renew a tranquil conscience within me, oh my hope, through the Spirit of power, confirm thou me in thy cause, oh my best beloved, confirm thou me in thy cause, and by the light of thy glory reveal unto me thy path. By the light of thy glory reveal unto me thy path. O thou, the goal of my desire, transcendent might lift me up unto the heaven of thy holiness, O source of my being, and by the breezes of thine eternity, gladden me, O thou who art my God. Let thine everlasting melodies breathe tranquility on me, O my companion. Let the riches of thine ancient countenance deliver me from all except thee, O my Master, O my Master, and let the tidings of the revelation of thine incorruptible essence bring me joy. O thou who art the most manifest of the manifest, and the most hidden of the hidden, the most manifest of the manifest, and the most hidden of the hidden of the hidden of the hidden of the hidden of the
All human creatures are the servants of God. All are submerged in the sea of his mercy. The creator of all is one God. The provider, the giver, the protector of all is one God. He is kind to all. Why should we be unkind? All live beneath the shadow of his love. Why should we hate each other? There are certain people who are ignorant. They must be educated. Some are like children. They must be trained and educated until they reach maturity. Others are sickly, intellectually ill, spiritually ill. They must be treated and healed, but all are servants of God. Baha'u'llah taught that the hearts must receive the bounty of the Holy Spirit so that a spiritual civilization may be established. For material civilization is not adequate for the needs of mankind and cannot be the cause of its happiness. Material civilization is like the body, and a spiritual civilization is like the soul. Body without soul cannot live. Baha'i scriptures.
What happened to
Thank
number
you.
2?
Yes.
Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all sentient beings, as they appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form, whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice or descendants of Harata and a predominant rise of religion, at that time I descend myself to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I advance myself millennium after millennium. Hindu scripture.
Those wise men who are much given to meditation and find pleasure in the peace of a spiritual way of life, even the Devas, envy them perfect Buddhas and recollected as they are. And whenever, whilst enraptured in mind, his spiritual frame and his mind become tranquil, at such a time he has gained and is developing the element of enlightenment, tranquility. And thus this element of enlightenment reaches fullest perfection. And whenever, whilst being tranquilized in his spiritual frame and happy, his mind becomes concentrated, at such time he has gained and is developing the element of enlightenment. Concentration, and thus this element of enlightenment reaches fullest perfection. Buddhist scripture.
What law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, God sending his own Son in the kindness of sinful flesh, likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin, condemned sin in the flesh, that the righteousness of the law might be fulfilled in us, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Because the carnal mind is enmity against God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be. Christian scripture.
But it has already been revealed to thee, as it was to those before thee, if thou wert to join gods with Allah, truly fruitless will be thy work in life, and thou wilt surely be in the ranks of those who lose all spiritual good. The messenger believeth in what hath been revealed to him from his Lord, as do the men of faith. Each one of them believeth in Allah, his angels, his books, and his messengers. We make no distinction, they say, between one and another of his messengers. And they say, we hear and we obey. We seek thy forgiveness, O Lord, and to thee is the end of all journeys. Islamic scripture.
The purpose of the one true God, exalted be his glory, in revealing himself unto men is to lay bare those gems that lie hidden within the mind of their true and inmost self, that the diverse communions of the earth and the manifold systems of religious belief should never be allowed to foster the feelings of animosity among men, is in this day of the essence of the faith of God and his religion. These principles and laws, these firmly established and mighty systems have proceeded from one source and are the rays of one light. That they differ one from another is to be attributed to the varying requirements of the ages in which they were promulgated. Bahula Glenning's page 280.
O my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal to them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavour, and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily, thou art their helper and their Lord. Baha'i Scripture.
Nightingale of paradise, you sing of love.
Thank you. Thank you. So this evening, we are going to have a wonderful talk from Satcha Evans, and she's a professional development coach and hypnotherapist and educator. But probably more importantly, she's a mother and grandmother and artist and writer, and lives and works in Newport. So tonight, Satcha is going to talk about the Enneagram system model of personalities and the insights for spiritual growth, which will be, very interesting and help us on our path of spiritual growth. And also the work of Abraham Almas, and a discussion around the purpose of ego and the possibility of letting go of ego. So all this is very important for our life and to really fulfill our potential that God's hope is for us. So let's please all give Satcha a warm welcome for taking the time to present to us tonight.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
And also may I welcome, there are some new friends here, Udaya Kumar and Velamal Mutaya. I think they are from India. Yes, thank you. Satcha.
Thank you very much for your welcome, Siva and Tracy, and welcome to everybody. I don't know everybody's names, but welcome aboard. Thank you. So, yes, as Tracy.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, so let me know if you cannot hear me or I need to speak clearer. Let me also know if you don't understand something that I'm pointing to. I'm very open for you to pause me, to stop me and question me along the way. I might present in a way that is unusual. I'm hoping to share things that you can use in your life and use definitely in your spiritual life and growth. So let's start off by saying that we all have personalities, yes. And believe it or not, my personality is showing up right now and it's running the show. It's not actually me, but it feels like me because I've been taught most of my life that my personality is me. And it might be the same for you, it might not. And I struggle with my personality. I don't know if you struggle with yours. I sometimes wish I was more like this and less like that. And I even sometimes struggle with other people's personalities. I sometimes wish other people were less of this and more of that. And maybe you do too. And I'm going to start off the discussion by offering a definition of sorts to say, what is the personality structure? Personality structure. So the best way that I can think of is to use a metaphor, to use an analogy. And I have two. And I'm hoping that you'll get the sense of what I'm going on about. So personality structure is like a house. And a house takes time to build. And it takes a lot of hands, a lot of minds, perhaps a lot of hearts in the building, step by step, and it takes time. And sometimes houses get finished, and sometimes they don't. And sometimes we stand back from the house that we've built and we say, what a fine house. It's a good house. It's a strong house. The house can protect me from the elements. the house can give me a sense of status, perhaps. And sometimes houses get knocked down. And sometimes houses are even ridiculed. And so we live in our houses. We live inside the houses. But the house is not us, just like the personality structure is not actually who we are deep down. The next metaphor that I want to share with you is the metaphor of clothing. Initially, when we're small, babies and children, our parents choose our clothes for us. We don't get to choose for ourselves until we grow a bit taller, a bit older. Our parents choose what they think and feel will protect us from the weather, what they also think will look attractive on us so that we'll be attractive to other people. They choose clothes that will serve us, and they often do serve us very well. We live inside our clothes, but our clothes are not us. And so the personality structure, if you can follow this metaphor, is something that we learn, that we adapt. We learn from our parents and our educators and our friends sometimes, from our peers, from our carers. We learn the values of our parents, what's important, what matters, and they become the ingredients of the personality structure. And it's not to say that there's anything wrong or right or good or bad about having a personality structure. There isn't. It's actually very necessary for the children to grow up building a personality structure. Synonymous, interchange that term personality structure with the term ego structure. For this discussion, the offer is that they're sort of the same thing. The ego is a necessary part of children's development. And it serves us until perhaps it gets in the way and perhaps it doesn't serve us. And that's where the spiritual growth comes in. So, what is spiritual growth? And for the purpose of this discussion, the offer is that it's got something to do, or a lot to do, with the letting go of the ego structure. The letting go of something that has served us and has been taught to us and conditioned into us to value, to uphold, to use, to protect us, to help us to fit in, to help us to feel worthy in ourselves, to help us to be a useful asset to our society. But the thing is, what might be useful for you to understand and to reflect upon and consider is that the ego structure, the personality structure or structures, was formed at an age when we were small, at an immature stage of our development, when we were surrounded by giants. And when we were small, we were dependent on our giants, on our parents, on our teachers. And so with that is the sense that we needed to be approved of. We needed to be accepted from the outside world in order to prove ourselves worthy, to prove ourselves valuable, to prove ourselves lovable. necessary, and useful. So at a small age, there's a sense that there's always something to improve. There's always something to get better at. And that's lovely. That the ego structure, the personality structure, is under the impression that under the impression that it is inadequate. And that's the delusion of the ego, or the illusion, one of the two, or both. A child can't help but feel a certain degree of inadequacy in the face of the giants, you see. And so the majority of us feel that we're not enough in some way, or sometimes in many ways. And so the personality structure, the ego structure, comes on board because it assumes it needs to save us, to rescue us, to fix us, to improve us, so that we can one day be enough for the outside world. And so Rizzo and Hudson wrote the book, The Enneagram, in order to help us to understand that we're not, the strategies that we're employing, the clothes that we're wearing, we're not who we think we are, generally. We are, even though the values of society and the community and the culture and everything that our teachers and our parents condition us and teach us to be is all well and good and great and serves us, there's something a lot deeper and a lot more than what appears on the outside. It's not that we're putting on an act, or perhaps it is, but the act is there to fit us in, to get approval, to get love, to feel valuable, to be of value to other people. And so it's just that what happens is that sometimes the ego structure, the personality structure, starts to assume our identity, or we take on the identity of the personality structure. We assume the identity of the ego structure, because that's what the ego structure actually loves to do, is to identify with what we think, what we do, how we do it. It's a process of identification, because the ego structure, the personality structure, feels like it would be lost without an identity. And so it latches on to our belongings, it latches on to our achievements, it latches on to our knowledge, it latches on to what we want to be seen to be doing. It latches on to what we see ourselves doing, so that it feels itself significant. It feels itself something, someone, because it's afraid of being nothing and no one. And so Rizzo and Hudson, in their book about the Enneagram, point to 9 what they call personality types. I like to call them strategies, because they're just something that we're doing in order to get a sense of value for ourselves in the face of other ego structures, in the face of other personalities, in the face of other people. And I'm only going to talk about 3 here this evening. Well, if there's time, I might talk about more, but I've just chosen to talk about 3, which I'm trusting will land. Rizzo and Hudson seem to suggest that we do one or two more than we do the rest. I tend to see my personality structures in all of the 9 strategies, in all of the 9 types. But that's apparently part of one of the structures, is that it likes to be everything and to everyone. So number 9 in the Enneagram is what's known as the peacemaker. And I like to call it the strategy of the peacemaking. And peace is one of our society's highest values, and rightly so. We value peace very much, especially in the world that we have today. And our peacemakers are very valuable. So what might have happened in a child's life that was developing this personality structure, this ego structure of the peacemaker, is that the parents perhaps overly valued the child that was very peaceful, pointed to and celebrated and rewarded and thus reinforced. Oh, she's such a peaceful child, they said. And that's all well and good. But there is a downside in that under stress and under duress, the personality structure goes what's called into ill health. And what that looks like for a personality structure or an ego structure is that the person that is doing the strategy of peacemaking avoids conflict with themselves as with others. And that might seem okay, but it actually doesn't serve the person or the other people holistically, in the sense that sometimes it's very important to have very, very difficult conversations with yourself or with other people. And spiritual growth at the heart of it is about being honest and being truthful. And sometimes we have to do what's uncomfortable. And the peacemaker will avoid that because it doesn't like to feel uncomfortable. In ill health, but in good health, the personality structure, the ego structure can be in great health. And that's when they are our finest mediators, and they do that wonderful work. And that's wonderful for all of us. And so the question might be arising in your mind, well, what's wrong with that? Why shouldn't we have peacemakers going on being peacemakers? Why would they need to lose? Why would they want to lose their personality structure, that ego structure? If it's serving the community, if it's serving people in a good way. Well, it's not so much, it's more about growing the awareness that it might be, or it could be, or perhaps is on behalf of somebody that feels that they need to show up that way in front of others. Because deep, deep down, they don't know how yet to value themselves in any other way. And that goes for all the strategies, all the types. So moving on to the next one that I felt that there's a lot of women on the call. It's very common with women. So very ideally, easily to relate to and quite relevant in today's world is what's known as the personality type number 2 is the helper or the rescuer. and women culturally and for many decades have been taught to be the carers of the world, and that's lovely. And that helps our society, that helps our community, so that's lovely. However, looking at a little bit closer, if, and I'm not saying it happens all the time, but if the helper is helping in order to feel worthy as a person, as a human being, and they don't know how to feel worthy just as they are without helping, then that's worth looking at. In ill health, what happens as the personality ego structure deteriorates in ill health under stress is the helper keeps records of how much they've helped other people, and this builds resentment and bitterness inside. And you see what I'm pointing at, how the personality ego structure can sometimes run the show, has us, in the sense that we feel bound and tied to that. If the personality structure is so strongly a part of who we think we are, if that's the case, it's not always the case, but if that's the case, then we find it very difficult not to be the person seen to be helping, not to be the person seen to be the one that cares and gives, because our identity structure is depending that we show up in that way in front of other people. In good health, the personality structure of the helper, the helping strategy, I help because I want to be seen to be helping. It's a valuable service. Is in good health, it's selfless help. It's helping without expecting any reward, any thank you at all. It's helping for the sake of helping, and that's moving. Obviously, it as each personality structure becomes healthier and healthier, that moves us towards the spiritual growth of actually letting that structure go. It's just not needed anymore. I don't have to show up this way. I can choose to. It's not my default setting. It's something that I feel is just right to do. And the last structure I'll look at is that a strategy, personality strategy, is that of the reformer, the strategy of reforming. And that points to, in what it looks like in good health, is somebody that is very interested in, very focused on living a very just, moral, ethical life, and does so, and lives an exemplary life, a life that if you look at their life, it's a beautiful example of the best of humanity, the best of a human being. What it looks like in deterioration under stress, that personality structure, which is not actually them, but they show up that way. In ill health, that looks like I'm going to focus on the faults of others. I'm going to correct others because I don't actually want anybody looking at my faults. Because humans being humans, we are fallible and we make mistakes, and we sometimes go even against our own values. And so Rumi, the poet, pointed to, in his poem, the tearing down of the house. And I haven't, nobody stopped me, nobody paused me, nobody's asked any questions. So I'm just hoping and trusting that you've got a gist, you've got a sense of what I'm sharing.
I think they are very,
And-
very much, very
And
much.
you know what I mean by tearing down the house.
They are all listening very intensively.
Yes, we're listening. We're
Oh,
listening, concentrating. It's very good.
Oh, that's good. So in his poem, hey, he said, tear down the house. Tear it down. And it's possible, but there's very few of us can actually do it. But how do we do it? That's probably the biggest question that I should end with. How do we do it? And part of the how, which I'm learning, just beginning to learn, it's very simple. So it's one word, it's awareness, but it's actually not only awareness, it's observation. It's bringing a sense of welcome, because as you probably know, any resistance, it will end up in persistence. The minute you resist something, it'll hang in there. And especially with the ego structure, it doesn't want to die, because the ego structure thinks that it's us, and we think that we're the ego structure. So in a sense, we're terrified of losing our ego structure because we think that we're going to die without it. And the ego structure is an energy, it's an entity that also thinks without us to feed upon, to be the host, that it will die, and it's afraid of dying. And so there's a clinging. And so rather than go, oh God, there it is again, I'm doing that, I'm showing up that way because I want their approval. I want to feel valuable. I want to be seen as a good person. Just observe that. Welcome it. Welcome it. And be with it. It's kind of easy to witness it in others. It's very slippery, and it's harder to witness it in ourselves, because the ego is very shy. It doesn't actually like to be seen for actually what it is. It would prefer to be masquerading as us. So with that, unless there is more time, I'm happy to share about the other structures. Otherwise, I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it. You tell me if you'd like a few more.
I think it's this is my personal opinion anyway. Others can say what they want to say. Your topic is very, very highly philosophical, and it needs time to assimilate and understand. So I think with these three, we can explore deeper and try to unravel the details inside. That's how I look at it. What do you think, Tracy?
Yeah, I think, to just sort of see where the questions and conversation goes.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be that you bring in some of the others, or maybe you do a part two.
Yes.
Of another time,
Yes.
because it's, I just had this sort of little phrase going through my mind a couple of times when you were talking, that you really try to help us to find the freedom for our soul.
Yeah.
That if we can have that sort of kind observation of ourselves, and I emphasize the kind, because we're usually our own worst critics.
Yeah.
But to, just to sort of have kind observation, and just sort of to have just a little bit, I don't have to do that. To have freedom means I can, or I can't, I don't have to. I can just sit and be, and that's okay. But that's a real journey to be able to do that. But I think you're giving that clarification of the clothing and sort of making it an objective sort of analogy. It helps us to have that more kind self-observation, and that's a real gift. So I think you have given us a gift tonight with that clarity, So first of all, I want to say thank you, and then just ask anyone who wants to ask a question or say something or have a reflection to please use their in the reaction, raise your hand so that I can actually see that. Okay, Zoran, you're first, please.
Thank you. Just wanted to thank Sasha for giving a beautiful talk about personality. But I wanted to ask, I need a lot more of talk, your explanation, but how about, for example, being peaceful all the time? I think you are very right in the type 9 that, for example, I want always, because I want to be peaceful, even when I don't even say anything, that because you want to keep the peace. How do you, not combat, but how do you balance my personality to not always say yes? Sometimes you are afraid to say no because you are afraid of conflict, and that also makes me not so happy that why I didn't say anything, or I should have said something. Like a battle of ego and your spirit, always in a bit of, and also how to balance your ego, like bring your balance, your ego a bit lower, because he always wants to rule, to say do this, do that. But first, I think about the type 9 personality.
Okay, thank you for asking your question. It's a very, very good question. So I would challenge you to challenge yourself, because spiritual growth happens outside of your comfort zone. And so the personality structure running you wants you to stay where you are, wants you to stay continually doing what you've done, what you've always done. And at the worst, if you keep on not speaking up when part of you would like to speak up for fear of conflict, the conflict will actually go internally and cause perhaps some disease. So for your own health and longevity and well-being, growth will happen when you do what is very uncomfortable for you to do. And there's no way to avoid it. You have to do what you fear. You have to go towards the fear. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah. How to practice to be more brave in that? Just practice.
Yeah, baby steps, little by little. Just, I suppose, practice with people that you feel safe with,
yes.
as if it was speaking to somebody that you don't feel comfortable with. Role play, practice what you're afraid of with people that you feel good with, and just take baby steps towards, and you'll get there bit by bit, especially if you set an intention and realize how valuable for you it will be in the long run. It might be difficult in the short run, very difficult in the short run, but in the long run, it gets easier. It's like me giving this talk tonight. It's difficult for me, but the more I talk and get used to it, it's easy. It's getting easier.
Thank you. That means practice makes perfect, or something like that.
Yeah, well, we learn everything it's always difficult at first.
Thank you.
The more we do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah, I have more questions, but I leave it to the end. Yes, thank you.
Back.
We'll come back to you, Zora.
Yes, thank you.
Jung.
Thank you, Sacha, Tracy, Barry. I have questions. According to your background, you do a hypnotherapist job. Have you ever failed to hypnotize anyone just because their character is so strong, or their personality is so strong, or their spiritual is so strong, you couldn't guide them, they couldn't follow you, and they don't want to follow you, so your hypnotherapy failure?
Yeah,
So,
once. Yep.
have you ever faced somebody like that? Like they might have bipolar, they might have charismatic characters, they might be, just very strange character that you couldn't hypnotize them, because you see, when you talk about ego is very negative connotation, but personality structure is a bit advanced, because when you say to somebody, oh, they like her, therefore she's so successful at her job because she got beautiful personality, or she got good personality. But when you talk about ego of somebody, it's always like bad feeling or negative connotation about that person. So with ego is advanced character or personality is a person with good personality, good character.
Yeah,
it's just I understood that.
I think there's a few questions in there, but I'll answer the first one briefly. A friend of mine is actually a very good friend, and she told me before I offered her a hypnosis therapy session that she wouldn't be able to be hypnotized. She wasn't very good at it, so she didn't expect to be. And so she wasn't. She had some her own way of thinking wouldn't allow her to relax into the process. And just briefly touching on hypnosis, because it's not really tonight's topic, but there's a bit of a myth around hypnosis and hypnotherapy, in that my clients, people that come to me for that kind of work, they're never unconscious. They're completely conscious the whole time. They're just in a very deeply relaxed state. Yeah. And so when I say they're either able to be hypnotized or not able to be hypnotized, it simply refers to they're not able to follow instructions. They're not able to continue listening. And most people are. Most people can relax, and most people do. But yeah, one person didn't. For the second part of your question, my sense of what you're sharing is that in your experience, ego has a very negative association and connotation in a lot of circles. When people hear the word ego, there's a negativity surrounding it. Whereas people, when they hear the word personality, there's sometimes and often a positive connotation, a positive association. People have lovely personalities, a good personality. And so to you, they seem like opposite terms. And when I talked tonight, I was suggesting that they could be thought of as one and the same. And I think for you, you found that hard to accept, and that's okay. All I can say to that is that some people, as you say, have very pleasing and very lovely personalities, and everybody likes them, and that's lovely. what that showing up as a personality is all about is that personality is trying to be lovable, be loved, be accepted, and they're often very successful. They do what is acceptable and what will fit them in and what's attractive. They speak in a lovely way, and so that's a lovely personality. Where the ego comes into that and how it is sort of the same thing is that it's the ego that is trying to get something for itself. That lovely personality is simply trying to get love, which is lovely. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying to get love, right? It's kind of natural in a way. So that's how I hope that you can see it's kind of the same agenda, the same motivation. Yeah.
So that you just mentioned about nature. So I just want to connect what you mean by nature when you like strategy of the reformer.
Yes.
And in that reformer, you said about justice, about how to be seen as a just person.
Yeah.
They want to be seen as a good person.
Yeah.
So if this is the way you're saying, I just have a feeling that why people need to prove themselves so much. Just like a beautiful fragrance jasmine flowers, then that will attract people to come to their fragrance. So they just come by fragrance, like roses and all the beautiful flowers, like, roses. And you understand that, jasmine and roses. But in the way you describe things, that people have to prove themselves so hard, to prove themselves to be good, to prove themselves to be seen as good and helper and rescuer and peacemaker. But should be, should all these things be led by nature and good spirit, like the Holy Spirit, instead of that person had to struggle so hard to get what they want. It's against nature.
Yeah, I think I get the sense of what you're sharing. I mean, in a sense, we're on the same page, in a sense, I think. Human beings living in a social structure, in a cultural structure, in a society structure, in an educational system, we get taught, be this way, or else I'm unhappy, says the parent. Make daddy happy, make mummy happy. Oh, you're a good helper, darling. And to the child receiving that message, it's conditional love. I mean, we start off as babies and we get unconditional love when we come out of the womb. That moment when the baby's put on the mother's belly, there's no separation there. There's unconditional love. But within the first year, unfortunately, within the second year, within the third year, the love becomes conditional. Mummy doesn't like it when you cry. I mean, the ideal parent doesn't exist. We would love to think that there are parents in the world that love their children unconditionally. However, as much as we try, as hard as we try, I don't think that we've succeeded in giving the children of today's world the message that they are unconditionally valuable, because most adults out there value themselves and value others conditionally, unfortunately. And that's where the spiritual growth comes in, because, yeah, spiritual growth is unconditional love. Yeah. And wouldn't it be lovely if we could just all show up as we are without needing to do anything, but totally just be and love each other for being. But most of us love each other accordingly to what we do, how well we do it, etc. I mean, religions, the lovely, point us to the ideal, which is loving each other unconditionally. And that's something definitely to strive for. What I'm pointing to tonight is to observe where we are actually at, where each of us is actually at. Are we loving ourselves unconditionally? I'm not doing that yet. I wish I was. And the possibility is there, you know. And the more I love myself unconditionally, the more likely I'm going to love other people unconditionally. But I'm not there yet.
Thank you, Sacha. You know, doctor, they use fragrance. No, doctor doesn't use fragrance to treat patient, but do you use fragrance to treat patient?
Fragrance?
Yeah, or you use chemical.
No.
Like we hypnotize people by jasmine flower or by chemical.
No, neither. I hadn't thought of that at all. But I love nature and I love flowers and I love plants, and I have plants and flowers in my home, inside my home. So perhaps I have been without really knowing it. Might be something I might explore, using flowers as natural sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Like essential oils. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Marina. It's your chance. Thank you, Yung.
Hi, Shasha. Thank you for the nice presentation. Can you hear me or not?
Yes, just. I don't know why.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Hi, Shasha. Thank you for the nice presentation. I was just listening to the question brought up by Zora, and I'm just trying to work out, how long do you expect us to be quiet and accept things and not speak out? When we speak up in a group like number 9 you mentioned, like we keep quiet and say, yeah, you are right, to keep the peace among the people. But there's a time we blow out. At the top, when there's reached the top point, we blow out and say, that's enough. I have had it, right? And if the other person who is receiving, if it is an immediate family, there's a good chance, okay, you make up a few hours or few days or whatever you call it, right? But how do we do that when it is not a family member?
Thank you for asking that. I think I understand what you're pointing to. It sounds like if you're doing strategy of peacemaking, you take it, you're quiet. And then if you're in your family situation, eventually you blow up, you make a lot of noise about it.
Yeah.
And then you're comparing that to what's not a family situation. How do you negotiate friends or workplace situation where you're feeling bothered by something?
Yes, within the friendships, like 2 years of friendship, when I have been really good and helping and everything, I kept quiet, and it came to a point where I said, it looks like you want to receive everything, but not giving it back to me or my family. That's
not equal.
Yeah.
Wasn't reciprocated.
I don't want to talk any further. Then they ask, where is your religion? All these years you kept quiet. Where has your religion gone? And you say you are a Christian. Where does it stand?
Okay, so they've pointed back at you, asking you, where's your religion?
Yeah, but like, love thy neighbor or forgive thy neighbor, whatever is in the Bible, right?
Yeah, so let me just get this straight. You feel you gave, and then you realize it wasn't reciprocated. And then you spoke up, and then they pointed back at you going, where's your religion?
Yeah.
What are you asking me? You're asking me what to do or what to say?
How do I sort of say at that point? I said, give me some time. I'll think about it and get back to you when I'm ready to talk to you.
That's what you've said.
Yes, and that has been said about 6 months ago now. And I still haven't got back because I'm unable to give up. I'm unable to.
And so you're wondering what to say to the person?
Yes.
Okay.
Practical question.
So what stops you from simply sharing your truth? simply sharing from your perspective, you were giving to them and you didn't see anything coming back.
Yeah,
And-
always getting it from me, not anything being given back to me. Just a thank you doesn't mean a word to me. Thank you and sorry doesn't mean anything to me.
Okay.
It has to be in action. You can't just keep getting. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I say, no, thank you. That's only a word. It's not in my dictionary.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So here's the thing. A couple of things. It'd be interesting. Can you see your role, your choice in making the choice to continue giving despite not getting anything back?
No, it's come to a stage I can't. I would like something to be given back.
Because there's a sense of responsibility in that. It's like, I choose to give my friend this. Oh, I choose to give my friend this. I choose to give my friend this. Hey, I'm noticing she doesn't really give much back to me. I choose to give my friend this. I choose to give my friend this. I'm hoping that she'll give back to me, but I haven't seen it yet. I choose to give my friend this. I choose to give my friend this. Do you see the choices that you're making? Take responsibility for that choice. And so, okay, after a long time, you stop. You realize it's not coming back. It's not reciprocated. You mention that, hey, you're not giving back to me. And then she says, where's your religion? Okay, so you don't really need to reply. You have to ask yourself, is this relationship important to you? Do you need this relationship? You can love her unconditionally, like realizing that's where she's at. That's her pattern, that's her program. She probably receives from other people, not just you. So it's not personal. It's just her way of being in the world. Perhaps she was the baby of the family, and she was used to being given too. And perhaps they allowed her to be under-responsible because she was cute and whatever. But so your sense of religion, you don't need to question yourself. That's your ego questioning you, your personality, because you want to be seen as a good person. She's asked about, are you a good person? Basically, that's what she's asking you. And so your ego gets engaged and goes, am I a good person? Yes, I think I'm a good person. I better check in with somebody else. Am I a good person? Because I gave and I gave and I gave to this person. They didn't give back. But then they asked me, where's my religion? So, I mean, that could be a strategy to take the focus off them. Maybe they know on some level, well, my guess is they do know on some level that they've been receiving and receiving and receiving. So rather than admit it, their ego doesn't want to be seen to be naughty. Oh, I'm being seen to be selfish here. So let me focus on you and see if I can take the pressure off myself. I mean, that's a way of understanding where she's coming from. So it's really up to you whether you think that this relationship serves you, and how is it serving you? Was it giving you a sense of, I'm a helper, and therefore I'm a good person because I'm helping this person?
Yes, okay, but there is a limit for helping, and it might be something I have to decide and stop it if it is not going to be.
I don't know if I've answered your question, but maybe I've given you something to think about.
Maybe something I have to decide to myself and stop it. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Shasha.
Thank you, Marina and Satya. That was very informative for all of us. Very helpful. Thank you.
True.
Zoran, you're back in line again for your next round of questions.
I think I was going to ask Pina to talk because Pina had her hands up, and then after Pina or after Colin, because I already spoke once.
Pina, do you want to ask something?
If you
Yes,
if
thank you
raise
so
your
much.
hand,
Thanks for that wonderful talk. It is so important that I am reminded to think, who am I? Why am I existing? Why God created me? What am I to do in this life? Would I want to be useful in this world? So, see, as we have been reading holy writings, and we are informed that we are created by God in his image and his own likeness, while man created evil in his own likeness and in his own image as well. So anything good is from the source of good, that is God. And anything wrong is from human beings, because we are imperfect. But we are so blessed to have guidance, to have, when I ask question of myself, God created me in his own image and in his own likeness. And I should be doing what he wants me to do, because that's how I should become happy if I do that. So we go to that standard of who am I? Why am I sacrificing my opinion? Why do I need to be humble instead of egoistic? It is because there is this standard. If we want to be free and happy and contented in this life, we have this standard that is given to us, and that is called the Holy Writings. And we are so blessed to have that, because God created us not leaving us alone, but he gave us the teachings and guided us. So we are really, if we love humankind, as Abdul Baha said, with the love of God, he said, you will never be impatient. You will never be angry. So when you start to get angry, the ego is coming in already, the insisting self. And then you remind yourself, what am I supposed to do? Then I should be humble. Because being humble, is said that humble yourself that I may graciously visit thee. That's what the Holy Writing says. So if we humble ourselves, we open the blessing of nearness to God, or be having God with us. And then another passage, he said that I came to visit you, but I found a stranger, so I left. What is this stranger? To me, the opposite of being humble is the ego, being egoistic, and that is the stranger. So when the ego comes in, he goes away, capital H. That's why I heard you mentioning that letting go of the ego. So letting go of our worldly self, because we are created divine. We are designed to be happy. To be happy means you work hard for it. It's not simply it comes. To strive, to sacrifice one's liking sometimes. As you said, you go through difficulties. This is life. No one exists in this world without going through this journey of difficulties. That is how we will be. We will grow maturely. That is how we will be shaped. That is how we will be ripened, so that we become what is desirable in the sight of God. So really this topic of knowing oneself is so important. And it's not being humble, it's not lowering yourself or sacrificing your opinion by just keeping quiet for the sake of peace. It's not unjust. It is like you are here, you want to work for peace because you want yourself to be peaceful. And there, it doesn't come just like that. There are prices to be paid for all that. Thank you.
Tracy, I'm going to have to say goodbye to everybody now, but thank you so much for having me.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. We could have kept on
Thank
talking
you.
to you for a long time.
Sorry, I took some of you
Come back another time.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Chacha.
See
Thank you, Ave Maria.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hope to see you again. I think this was not enough for all the questions.
Well, we can still discuss based on what was presented and any other comments or questions. What do you think?
Colin or Zora, did you want, or Vasantha, did you want to?
I have a question, but maybe those who haven't spoken first, Colin or Vasant.
Colin and Vasant.
After that, I will ask.
Yeah, there were a lot of things in what Sacha was talking about that are very helpful, I think, in understanding ourselves and how we relate to others. For example, the idea that our personality is not our real self is helpful, because we need to learn how to accept ourselves and yet at the same time be accepting of change. And if we recognize the things we have to change might be in our personality, then that's less easier to cope with. But what I found quite very helpful in these this kind of personality descriptions and types is that we seem to be born with them, or they develop very early in life. I think possibly we're born with them because it hardly changes during our life. And I think that possibly God has created these different personality types as a kind of diversity in the world, and because we need different kinds of people. It used to be that, because I don't have a particularly good brain, but unfortunately I lead with the mind and then follow with the heart. So if something makes sense, then I'll attach my heart to it, and maybe I'll be a bit weak on the action side. Other people will lead with their heart and follow with their minds, and etc. And I used to think, well, what's wrong with those people who live with the heart? They're mindless, and they're thinking I'm heartless. But in reality, we're just different, and we have different strengths. And when we accept diversity like that, then you can see people in a different way, especially if you think that that's how God made them and that's how we should be. So our personalities define the kind of challenges we're going to have with ourselves and with other people.
Yes. Thank you, Colin. And even what Jung was saying earlier, that, with the Holy Spirit, that sometimes we notice something and it's too much for our own powers. But we can ask, for God's help to deal with that. We're not in this struggle by ourselves, but summer and winter share the year, but they don't share the day. We need differences of personality and approach, but, having them come together, we need God's help. But we don't ask for God's help unless we observe. We just blindly go forward. Vasantha.
What I wanted to ask Chacha was that how to break the house, but she has already left. But the other thing is, I don't know, to a certain extent, I disagree with Pina, because when we are humble, sometimes people take advantage of it. Or they think that they can do whatever, they treat us the way they want to, and sometimes we are not just, there is no justice. I think there are times that we have to speak up for our right or for justice. So, yes, we have to be humble, but sometimes when there are people who don't value that we are humble, or they want to take advantage of that, then there is, like Marina said, we have to put an end to some time. That is how I feel. But it can be in a humble way, but we have to tell them what they are not doing is not right. That is my point.
Thank you.
Very important.
That is from my experience.
We're meant to be humble, not doormats.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
we shouldn't be doormats. That's right.
Yeah. Most.
Yeah, I think self-observation is the hardest thing one can do, because we don't have a mirror of ourselves in front of our eyes, and we can see everyone else, but we can't see ourselves all the time. So it's the hardest thing that one can do. And that's why Baha'u'llah said, bring your account yourself at the end of every day. So we have to train ourselves to observe ourselves in order to, I mean, I'm myself saying the same thing. I'm ignorant of myself, and always we have to try and train ourselves to observe ourselves, or have that mirror of ourselves outside and check it. The other thing is that I wanted to say something for Marina. In the scriptures, we are told we have to have unconditional love and love our enemies. So it has to be unconditional. If we are going to give that love unconditionally, you shouldn't ask that person why you didn't give back. Because giving back, we are asking for mutual take and give, which is not unconditional love. It's just a matter of fairness. Of course, we shouldn't be mad and so that people use us. But I guess people that are humble sometimes are used. I agree with that. But self-observation is the hardest thing to do.
That's for sure.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, sir. Yes, thank you.
Okay, Zoran, we've come back to you.
Finally, I have been patient.
You have been very patient.
Thank you very much, Tracy. You are a very good chairperson. Yeah, I just wanted to know, I didn't understand the third personality, but from the first and second, the one she explained, the type 9 and type 2, they were like being peaceful, or the other one helpful all the time. I think what I feel I understood now, that truthfulness comes into this very much for me, that if I am truthful to myself, then if I don't like the situation, I have to say something. If I don't want to be helpful sometimes, that's all right. I don't have to be helpful all the time or peaceful all the time, but that means I have to become more brave. As she said, that sometimes step by step, baby steps. And for example, in my case, I said, I don't want to keep the peace all the times. And I feel if I'm truthful to myself, I have to say that. I think this situation is not very peaceful to me, or I don't have to always, be quiet or say yes. Or for example, when my son asks for help all the time, I don't have to say always yes. Sometimes, which is not very strong, you say, no, I think this time I can't do it. I think it's a practice. But to me, truthfulness is a foundation of all these virtues. Whatever we are learning, we have to be truthful, either to ourselves and to the other person. Tell them this time I can't be helpful, or even say, can you help me with this situation? For the one who always asks for help, sometimes you ask them, can you help me with this problem? And see, it doesn't matter they say yes or no, but asking them also, they help them to be also helpful. I mean, we have to help other people to grow virtues also. And this way, not to be angry at them or despiteful or keep them away, because they could be a very nice friend, but they don't know how to help. We just ask them, can you help me? But I have to learn how to be, that peacefulness in me is very strong. I have to break that sometimes. Thank you.
Yeah, very good point, Soren. You know, it's that truthfulness to ourselves.
Yes.
You know, we have to be honest with ourselves all the time. And that's sort of, you know, and then, you know, we can still love someone unconditionally, but have boundaries.
Yes.
You know, and we have to help people take for their spiritual growth and responsibility. You know, it's not just to be yes means that we're depriving people, but to be doing it with love, you know, with respect. You know, that yes, maybe we can't be friends, but maybe we can be friends, but it's respectful, you know, but it's
honor our feelings. I think that's another thing.
And another thing I have learned is with the boundaries only now to stick with 5 times to 10 times help. And if you don't get it back, or if they don't offer to help, it's harder more than that time to help anyone. So where do you keep the boundary? Do you keep it at 10 times to help someone or 100 times to help someone? So I think you know, there are difficult times, but you come to a stage or age and you say, oh, that's all I can do for you at this stage. And leave it like that, I guess.
Yes, and then sometimes it is like that, isn't it? You know, what you can do when you're 40 and what you can do later, not the same.
That's right, yeah.
Yes, the cycle of life, you know, sometimes we become very dependent at the end. But you know, it's universal. So is there some plan in that we have to learn how to say no, how to receive help as well as give help, you know, and all of those subtle things.
Right.
Jung.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Tracy. Tonight, some people just mention about humble or not humble. It's all good because depend on where you are, what context you're in, what job situation are you in. Just say, imagine a person come for interview, 500 applicants, only have 14 jobs. And if the person have to talk about their tracking records of all the achievements that they achieve, they list out all the factual, the real things that they have done. So therefore, we might say they're humble or they're not humble. But how you assess to select somebody into a job, the top job, that like 500 applicants fighting for 14 positions, and just say we have an interviewing panel, they all have to come in and tell us about the tracking records. So therefore, in that situation, competitive environment, a person had to tell all the factual things that have they done, tracking record, demonstrated record. Have you ever worked for the public, you know, like for the government? So therefore, to say somebody humble or not humble, you have to look into each case. You cannot just tumble everyone in a Bible, in the scriptures. It's not correct. Because then if you are too humble, you will never can get a job, a top job. I'm talking about top job here, more than 150K per year.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Tracy.
Okay, thank you, Jung. Yeah, being humble doesn't mean that we put ourselves down. We have to be truthful, not up and not down. You know, we have to recognize God values us. So we have to value ourselves from God's point of view, but to also be truthful. This is what I've done, not try to put ourselves down lower, but to be truthful and to recognize, being humble is also recognizing God has helped me to achieve something. I haven't done it on my own. My parents or family or teachers, many people have helped me to achieve something. It's also to remember that, but it is case by case. And that's the hard thing. As Anna was saying, at the end of the day, we have to reflect, how did I go today? Not yesterday, not how tomorrow, but to have that sort of, polishing ourselves up and then asking God, please help. I can't get it back.
Well, 150K is not a top job, you know that?
Yeah.
150K is nowhere near the top job. But
Yeah.
I mean, in some cases, people have to prove themselves. They keep proving themselves, and that's nothing to do with humble or not humble. So if you take humble sense in a wrong environment, competitive jobs seek, it's going to be a very different picture.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Young. Siva.
Thank you.
Well, her topic was about spiritual growth and what's the relationship between our personality structures. And however, I put it on the chat, the book and the name of the author that she mentioned. And there may be many people who writes about these topics. Those who believe in God and the messengers of God, we had to test everything with the holy writings, whether whatever the knowledge outside is conforming to the holy writings. That, of course, depends on what our understanding of the holy writings also, because my understanding of a particular verse may be different from another person's understanding. Now, in this talk, she mentioned the personality structure, and the metaphor she used, one was house and the other one was the clothes. To me, how I understood her presentation is that, as Pina said, that we who follow God's guidance, we understand what's the purpose of our life. So the house that we are trying to build, an ideal house, we have an image of it or conception of it. But actually what we are building is not that perfect ideal house. So there is discrepancies. The process that she was trying to explain us, I think, is whether it is tearing the house or rebuilding the house or improving the house to become that ideal house. So, but I don't think that there is a specific way of doing for everyone, and each one has our own way of doing it. But certainly what Ahmad said, that because Baha'u'llah said that, bring thyself to account each day, ere thou art summoned to a reckoning. That means every day we have to reflect our own actions. And when we reflect, means that we are reflecting against the standard that's set by God of what our actions were, and see the gap or see the differences, and to try and reconcile it so that that ideal house is being built. And Perimal actually sent a message. Perimal, do you want to share that quotation, Perimal? You send a message.
Okay, thank you. Today's topic is very interesting. A lot of input. Before I share the quotation, we were talking about being humble. Humble is the quality of the spirit. We all have to be humble. But we must put the point straight. Like we grow with the family, the children, we have to be humble with them. But the point has to be made straight. Humble doesn't mean they can take advantage. That's one of the things. So here it comes truthfulness. Whatever they are asking, whatever we are going to do, we must be truthful in our action. Like Zorab said, truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. Without truthfulness, progress is impossible in all the worlds of God. This is one thing. Okay, you're talking about the house. Baha'u'llah talk about our body. The body without the spirit is no point. So the quotation I was sharing with Siva, O my servant, free thyself from the fetters of this world and loose thy soul from the prison of self. Seize thy chance, for it will come to thee no more. So we have only one chance. If you are just going to talk about this world and the surrounding and so on, we'll never going to be happy, because this world is made of so many things. So we have to concentrate why are we living here, what is our purpose, what our role, function towards our fellow being is very important. We cannot just live in comfortable and high-rise building with all the things, and when our neighbors are suffering. So we also must be a guide to them how to improve their livelihood, how to improve their condition. In the beginning of our program, Siva shared with us the prayer, create in me a pure heart. It's very important. So I think we have to draw a line how we are going to be. Character building is how we build character is you are not born with the characters. It's the education, the surroundings, the community is what we are made of. Just now, Young was asking that people with high qualifications and so on. I want to relate one story. A person, owner of a big corporation, advertised in the paper that you want to employ a top post position in the company. So he advertised. Only one post, one vacancy. The people who apply for it is 100 of them. They have all the qualification and they studied in so many universities and so on. So they were all sitting outside waiting for the turn. There's one person who was sitting there listening to all these people conversation outside while they're waiting for the interview. He felt that he was not suitable. He's not compared to all those people present. So he went out. He didn't even go for the interview. So after the interview is over, he was there waiting for the post to come out. He was at the corridor walking up and down. So this person asked him, the interview is over. Why are you still waiting here? You are late. So he said, I am late. I'm not late. I came earlier, but I felt I'm not comparable to all those people who came for the interview. So I just didn't attend the interview. Then he asked me, why you are waiting here? For my travel expenses, your company gave me $100. My travel only cost me $90. So I'm here to return the $10 to you. So the person said, you are employed immediately. I chose you because of your truthfulness. I know you will safeguard my company under all expenses, under all circumstances. So this is truthfulness is very important. So this is the take-home message. Thank you.
Thank you, Paramore.
We are coming to almost 9 o'clock. Those who have not spoken, and the new person, Udaya Kumar, Shadi,
I
Sandhya.
just wanted to say something though, Siva, that part of Satch's purpose though was talking about the personality types, that we may develop a certain protective personality based on our experiences growing up, but it may not be aligned with the soul's purpose that God has given to us.
Yes, that's right.
And that's why we have to check our motivation. It's our motivation and integrity and truthfulness that will be the thing that is this serving the purpose that God has given me. So she was trying to give us tools to see something that we may have developed that as a result of our growing up, but it may or may not be aligned with God's plan for us of who we truly are.
That's right.
So that's, she was trying to, and in the end, if we are created by God, there is a plan of our interconnection.
Yes.
And how we find that is our sort of, and be it, is our struggle, isn't it? And the struggle of humanity. Anyway, I just wanted to sort of that highlight her purpose and how she was trying to help us.
Yes, it was very, very useful. I think it's very, very deep. I think something that we all have to think about and try and apply this. If there's no other comments, especially Udaya Kumar, would you like to share something?
Good morning, sir. Thank you so much. It is a very, very, very nice explanation given by the madam. But only one thing, a personality is not coming automatically for a human being. He has to develop the personality step by step, one by one. Or the personality leads, which takes you to the godliness. Personality consists of different things in our mind: faithfulness, calmness, and being helpful to the others, and speaking to others in a good manner, very sweet manner. All these small little things makes a personality in a great way. And that is my little opinion about the personality. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. And can we see your face, please?
Today there is no power supply here.
Okay.
So there's no light. I am not very bright. Anyhow, I will see you next time, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
Can I say just something that my definition of humbleness is when you have achieved something and you're not bratting about it. But when you are in an interview, regardless of whether you are humble or not, you have to present yourself and what your achievements are. So I think for you, there are two different conditions. In an interview, one has to present oneself for the interview. But in the outside life, if one has achieved something and is not bratting about that achievement, then that person is a humble person.
Okay. Okay.
I think Panja
okay,
has
please.
unmuted herself to try and speak. Panja, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just waiting for the others to do it. I came in a little late, so I must understand what is being spoken. Anyway, I just would like to share this. I think it depends on how our personality is structured, that is related to the growth, whether spiritual or material, whether we are highly educated or we have average education. So it's whatever happens is depending on our personal structures, personality development. And it depends also on the spiritual growth of an individual, how we react to others, and our levels of understanding, and how much we are influenced by dark and light forces. Because when we grow up, when we face people, we might not have gone through the same kind of life with others. So we are going to work with people of different personalities. And we cannot avoid that. We will come across people of different calibers. And we as we are Baha'is, so we know the approach should be consultation. And also we don't have expectation when we do something. And we become perfect by mingling, working, sharing with others. That's like we become perfect little by little, day by day. And we have to always understand where we are, what is our duty, how we are going to deal with it. I might be of a different character, the next person. So I might be ambitious to get something cleared. But at the same time, I must not upset the situation or confuse people. So these are all considerations which a person has to think about. But sometimes the mental health, sometimes the health of a person, the understanding of a subject, it all comes into play. So there are lots of things every individual has to place themselves in a situation where we can adopt ourselves, and it depends on the personal structural development and the spiritual development of a person. The other thing I think of is like a mom and a child. A mom might have 5 children. Each child is different. How she has the patience to care and nurture and bring up each child. Sometimes there's conflict between the children, but the mom is so patient. The mother becomes so patient that she nurtures all the children and show love and give them life. So it's in the hypnotizing people or coming into this kind of situations, we have to have a lot of patience and guidance from the spiritual world, like our prophets and counselors and teachers and everybody, stage by stage, we are guided into our life. And each personality is different. And to understand everybody, we should also learn from the situation we are in. I hope I make sense, because
yes, you do.
I feel, yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That might have to bring the night to a close. What do you say, Siva? It's past 9 o'clock.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone, and we will see you next time.